Welcome to Learn English Journey. My name is Isabel Marlowe, and this is the story of how I learned that love can come in more than one shape, and that sometimes the hardest person to be honest with is yourself. When I first met David Turner, I was 20 years old, a literature student who believed that every love story could be written into permanence. David studied engineering, precise, brilliant, and always in control. He didn't believe in grand gestures. His world was made of logic and plans, while mine was built on poetry and emotion. We met in the university cafe on a rainy afternoon. I had spilled my coffee on a book of essays, and he offered me a napkin with a quiet smile. "You shouldn't drink near tragedy," he said, pointing to the title, Modern Tragic Heroes. I laughed. That was how it began. Our relationship grew in small moments, late study sessions, walks through the courtyard, long texts at night. He wasn't the kind of man who said "I love you" easily, but he showed care in other ways, making sure I got home safe, fixing my broken phone charger, leaving notes that said, "Remember to eat." It wasn't passion, but it was comfort. For a long time, I thought comfort was enough. Then, slowly, something began to change. David became busier, more distant. He answered with short messages, canceled dates, and smiled less. I told myself it was just stress, but one night, sitting across from him at the cafe where we first met, I realized we were two people staring at the same table, lost in different worlds. I asked softly, "Do you still love me?" He looked up from his phone and said, "Isabel, love isn't something you talk about all the time. It's just there," but I couldn't feel it anymore. A week later, we argued, not loudly, but deeply. Words that had waited too long finally escaped. I told him I felt invisible. He said I was too sensitive. I left before finishing my tea. That night, I walked to the library, needing silence more than answers. It was nearly empty, just the sound of pages turning and rain against the windows. I sat at a desk near the poetry section, my refuge, and that's when I saw him. He was sketching in a notebook, headphones around his neck, humming quietly. His name was Lucas Bennett. He was in the art program. Kind eyes, easy smile, the sort of warmth that filled the air without asking permission. "Do you mind if I sit here?" I asked. He looked up and said, "Not at all. Artists like company, even silent company." We didn't speak for a while. He drew. I pretended to read. But when he noticed the book in my hands, he said, "You like Neruda?" I nodded. "I like how he writes about love like it's a storm and a sunrise at the same time." He smiled. "Then you probably love life the same way. A little chaos, a little beauty." It was such a simple sentence, yet it lingered in me long after I left the library. Over the next few weeks, I started seeing Lucas around campus, sometimes at the art studio, sometimes at the cafe. Each time he'd smile like he had been waiting just to say hello. We talked about music, books, art, everything. He listened, really listened, as if every word mattered. With David, I had learned to measure my words. With Lucas, I learned to breathe them. But guilt began to grow in me like a shadow. I was still with David, or at least trying to be. I told myself Lucas was just a friend, but every time I laughed with him, my heart whispered otherwise. One evening, Lucas invited me to his art exhibition, a collection of student paintings. The gallery was small but full of light. He showed me one painting, a figure standing between two doors, one made of fire and one of water. What does it mean? I asked. He looked at me carefully. It's about choice, he said. Sometimes both doors burn, but one will still lead you home. That night, David called. He asked where I'd been. When I told him, he grew quiet, then said coldly, "You've changed." Maybe I had. Days turned into weeks, and the distance between us became a canyon. Every conversation with David turned into an argument about things we didn't want to admit. My need for warmth, his fear of vulnerability. Then came the night everything broke. We were supposed to meet for dinner after his class. He was late. Again. When he arrived, he barely looked at me. I tried to talk, but he interrupted, saying, "You always want more, Isabel. I'm doing my best." And I said, "But your best doesn't see me anymore." He looked at me for a long moment and said, "Maybe we're just too different." I stood up, left the restaurant, and didn't look back. My heart didn't shatter that night. It just went quiet. 2 days later, Lucas found me sitting on the grass behind the library. He didn't ask what happened. He just sat beside me and offered his jacket. "Sometimes silence is the best medicine," he said. I told him about David, about how love can turn into a routine, about how it feels to fight for someone who has already stopped trying. Lucas listened. Then he said something I'll never forget. "Don't confuse love with habit. Love isn't a cage, Isabel. It's the wind. It has to move to stay alive." I didn't know whether to cry or smile, but for the first time in months, I felt seen. From then on, things changed. We started spending more time together, walks through the art gardens, coffee at sunset, stories shared under the old oak tree behind the theater. I began to laugh again, to dream again, but part of me still hesitated, haunted by what David might think, or what others would say. Then one afternoon, as I was leaving class, David was waiting outside. His face was tense. "We need to talk," he said. We went to the cafe, the same one where everything had begun. He didn't order coffee this time. He just looked at me and said, "Is there someone else?" I wanted to lie, but I couldn't. "Yes," I whispered. "There's someone who makes me feel alive again." His jaw tightened. "Lucas." I nodded. He exhaled, shaking his head. "I knew it. He's been following you around like a stray dog. Do you even know what you want, Isabel?" Tears rose in my eyes. "Yes," I said softly. "I want to be loved, not managed." He stood up, hurt and pride mixing in his expression. "Then go find whatever you think love is." When he left, the chair still rocked slightly, like the echo of all the things we never said. That night, I found Lucas at the art studio, painting under dim lights. He turned when he saw me, worry in his eyes. "Are you okay?" I nodded, though my throat was tight. "David knows." He set down his brush. "Do you regret it?" I shook my head. "No. I regret waiting this long, to be honest." Lucas took my hand, gently, as if it were something fragile. "Then don't hide any more," he said. But the story didn't end there. Word spread quickly through campus. Some friends sided with David, saying I had moved on too fast. Others said it was about time. For a while I felt caught between guilt and freedom, between who I had been and who I was becoming. One evening, during the annual campus festival, I saw them both, David standing with his friends near the fountain, and Lucas helping hang lanterns near the stage. The air was full of music and light, but my heart was heavy. David walked up to me first. "You look happy," he said flatly. "I'm trying to be," I answered. He nodded, glancing toward Lucas. "So, that's him, the artist." "Yes," I said. He was quiet for a moment, then said, I wasn't good at showing love, but I did care. I know, I said gently, and I'll always be grateful for that. He sighed. Then I guess this is goodbye. It doesn't have to be angry, I said. We just took different paths. He looked at me one last time and walked away. And just like that, a chapter closed. Lucas found me soon after, holding 2 cups of hot chocolate. You okay? I smiled. I think so. He handed me a cup. Then let's celebrate your freedom. Not from him, but from doubt. We stood there watching the fireworks reflect on the river. He touched my hand, and I didn't pull away. The world felt still and right. I learned something that night. Love isn't measured by how long it lasts, but by how deeply it allows you to grow. David had been part of my growth, the quiet part, the lesson in patience and endurance. But Lucas was the awakening, the reminder that love should feel like warmth, not survival. When the fireworks ended, Lucas whispered, You chose me. And I said, No, I chose myself, and that led me to you. He smiled, and in his eyes I saw everything I had been missing, not perfection, but presence. So if you're listening to this story and standing somewhere between 2 loves, remember, the right one isn't always the first one or the easiest one. It's the one that helps you recognize your own heart again. Because love, real love, doesn't just hold you, it frees you. If you enjoyed this story, please like the video and share it with your friends. Comment below and tell us which country and city you're watching from. We love hearing from our Learn English Journey family. Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories and English lessons that help you grow in vocabulary, fluency, and confidence. Your support truly helps us continue this beautiful journey of words and emotions. See you in the next video.